So before we start this one, apparently New York Dolphins fans, good lord, Miami Dolphins fans are very, very easily insulted. So yeah, you took the time out of your day to watch a 16-year-old kid's video on Tua Tagovailoa. And then proceeded to write hate comments on it. So thank you very much. Special shout out goes to JT. What day was it when you woke up? Um, it was 21st. Thanks for asking. So today, New York Jets fans, if you are easily insulted or think your team is better than it is, I'd advise you click off. Otherwise, well, it's going to be a pretty bad video for y'all, but I will give you all a path out of it. So, the New York Jets are in an interesting position. All right, and I say this because coming up on the draft, it looks like they will be having the number one pick. Okay, they have the worst. They're unbeaten, not unbeaten, unwinnable, whatever. They have not gotten a single win in the NFL yet. Okay, so for they are on a straight path to the number one overall pick, and likely Trevor Lawrence with that pick. Now, the issue is they supposedly have their quarterback of the future, Sam Darnold, right? I mean, he hasn't looked bad exactly. Well, he has looked pretty bad sometimes, but I do feel like that is because of a lack of weapons around him and just lack of good, stable coaching. So here's the deal. If the Jets get the number one overall pick, are they going to draft Trevor Lawrence and just chuck out Sam Darnold? And this is where it gets to the interesting point, right? Because at that point, it almost looks like a Josh Rosen, potentially Dwayne Haskins type situation, right? Where you draft a quarterback in the first round and they never get a real chance to succeed, and that ends up being bad for both sides. The team that drafts them loses value on a first round pick, and then the quarterback, obviously, gets traded, cut, released, all that good stuff. So this brings up to an interesting theory of mine, and it is definitely a risk for the Jets. But the Jets have a lot of holes at other positions, okay? I'm just going to throw that out there. Jets fans, please, you have no need to get offended because it's true, okay? So Pro Football Focus ranks them 29th on defense, 32 offensively, which could be attributed to Sam Darnold or it could be attributed to a lack of offensive weapons. And they have the 28th overall offensive line. So basically what this is saying is that they have a lot of holes elsewhere. And I know that they spent their first round pick this year on a O-line person, but yeah, they have a lot of holes. We're just going to go with that. They have a lack of offensive weapons. I mean, when was the last time you heard someone talk about a New York Jets receiver? All right. Defensively, they've had to trade away all of their really good players, to be completely honest, because they've all wanted out, because it's not a good situation. So, and they've released Le'Veon Bell. So what I'm proposing here is going to be interesting. And if there are any Jets fans, I would love to hear your perspective on this because I have not watched a Jets football game in a long time. But y'all have a lot of holes to fill. And if you were able to auction off that first round pick, right? You would, or not the first round pick, the number one overall pick, and essentially Trevor Lawrence, you would be able to get a lot with that. Like, you could hold a bidding war between teams that need a quarterback for the future. I mean, the potential there is endless, right? You could fill a lot more with that. Now, the reason I bring this up is, it might, this is a risk here, huge risk. It might be better to trade the number one overall pick and fill in holes on your team in separate positions. Try and get a stable defense, maybe add a weapon on offense, boost the line, because Sam Darnold hasn't looked awful, right? He hasn't looked like an all-star or really the quarterback for the future too, but you could definitely contribute that to no weapons, poor coaching. So that is my thing on it. You trade that pick, the first overall pick, Trevor Lawrence essentially. You trade Trevor Lawrence for multiple other picks from other NFL teams. Because just think about how many teams are going to want to get Trevor Lawrence, right? And just think about what that pick, the value that pick holds. Potentially the best quarterback we've seen out of the draft in a long, long time, right? And he's not just some one and done or, one and done injury prone as Tua was, or one and done as Joe Burrow was. He has played, what, 3 full seasons? Or not 3 full seasons, 2.5, I think, at this point. Assuming he completes this season, of course. But he has looked very, very good on that Clemson team. And some could say, you could definitely make an argument, and this is going to be the majority opinion, obviously, that the Jets should just straight up draft Trevor Lawrence and rock with him as the quarterback of the future. And I say, yeah, go for it. But the lack of weapons, the lack of a defense, the lack of a, decent offensive line, it is troubling to me. And the fact that it is, you need weapons to succeed, right? Just one wide receiver that you can just know that in a check down situation, in a third down situation, you can just throw to him and you know that he's going to do it. That could be the difference maker, right? So the issue here is Trevor Lawrence is going to come into this situation with no weapons. Used to tearing up ACC opponents. I mean, it's just not going to look good for him, and it's not going to look good for the Jets organization either. And that's why I think it's going to make sense to go with Sam Darnold. Again, I know this is going to be a highly, highly controversial thing, but it just makes the best sense to me. I mean, quarterback, while it is the most important position, it also relies upon other positions the most. Okay? So, yeah. That's my take on the whole thing. I think they trade the first overall pick. This is assuming they get the first overall pick here. We're just going to say that they will. So, Jets fans, I would love to know what y'all have to say about this down in the comments below. Have a nice little talk about that. Because I'm not entirely, sure what this is going to be. I haven't met a Jets fan in, forever, basically. Y'all are a very, very rare breed these days. But yeah, long story short, this is what I did. Like and subscribe, all that YouTube stuff.